Hello and welcome all of you. This is the second video of the 2024 mains PYQ discussions. We are discussing the Pallavas of Kanchi today. That is the second question. Yesterday we discussed the first question on Vedic civilization. So it's again a 10 marker for 150 words and the question goes like this. Estimate the contribution of Pallavas of Kanchi for the development of art and literature in South India. So don't mistake the term Pallavas of Kanchi for something else. It's just Pallavas, something that we all are familiar with as part of our preparation. And the two domains that are given here are art and literature. Now we'll see how to structure this answer. As you can see, there are two clear dimensions. One is art, one is literature. We can divide the question into two parts. We can give approximately 5 points each for each part. Here we have given 6 points for the first part and 5 points for the second part. Whatever we have marked in yellow here are relevant keywords and content for this particular answer, which will boost your marks. Let's see how the introduction can be set for this question. Now, when you talk of a dynasty like the Pallavas of Kanchi, you always have to set the dynasty in its right temporal as well as spatial space. Now, the time period for the Pallavas is approximately from 4th century CE to 9th century CE. We'll give that in the introduction. Then we'll give the region, which is the Andhra Tamil Nadu region. Then we'll give the context of their rise, which is as the feudatories of the Satavahanas. Satavahanas succeeded the Mauryas after their decline in South India. Then you have prominent leaders from the dynasty, which is Mahendravarman and Narasimhavarman. So for a sample introduction, I'll give it to you like that. The Pallavas of Kanchi ruled over the TN Andhra region with Kanchipuram as their capital from 4th century CE to 9th century CE. They were the feudatories of Satavahanas and had prominent leaders like Mahendravarman and Narasimhavarman. So we set the introduction like this to display our subject knowledge. Then we'll give a map. Here we can give the territory of Pallavas in the time period of 645 AD, where we will mark the Andhra Tamil Nadu region as I mentioned. In the site, we'll give it as a box. Then we'll come to the first part, which is the contribution of Pallavas of Kanchi to the development of art and literature. The first part would be specific to art. Now in art, the first and foremost contribution of Pallavas is in the context of architecture. Within architecture, see, you can just write a point like their contribution to architecture and just give one example in the form of a temple. But you are expected to dissect it very precisely because the Pallava period saw an evolution of architecture, from rock-cut temples to monolithic riddhas to structural temples and finally to the proper Dravidian style temples. So we'll mark that specific evolution and we'll give specific examples under this part. First we'll talk about rock-cut temples. That's their first contribution. And one example is the Mundagapettu temple. It was under the commissioning of Mahendravarman I. Then it comes to the monolithic radhas or the mantapas. And examples for that is Shore temple or the Panchradhas at Mamallapuram. Then they came to the structural temples. So rock-cut temples and monolithic radhas are made out of a single rock. Structural temples, you compiles a combination of rocks and makes a temple like in the modern way. So structural temple example would be the Vaikunta Perumal temple. Then finally, the evolution of the Dravidian style of temple architecture, and example for that is the Kailasanatha temple. So within the architecture, you can have a fourfold division and you can have 4 different examples for that. Within the Dravidian style, you can give specific features like Vimanas, which are the temple towers, Mantapas, which are the pillared halls, elaborate Gopurams or the entrance gateways. Then let's come to the sculpture. The most famous sculpture of all is the Arjuna's penance or the descent of the Ganges. It's in Mamallapuram. It's known for its intricate carvings and iconography. So that can be clearly given. And finally, music. It's a very unique point. The mention of the musical contribution of the Pallavas is mentioned in Kudumiyan Muni Malai inscription. So that can also be mentioned in the first part. So temples, sculptures and music will contribute the art. And let's come to the literature part. Within literature, first of all, these kings themselves were literary enthusiasts. A most prominent work of Mahendravarman I is the Mattavilasa Prahasana. They promoted, so this Mattavilasa Prahasana is a play written in Sanskrit, but they equally promoted Tamil during their time. And that is reflected in the Pallava inscriptions, which is both in Tamil and Sanskrit. The third point will be a very unique script developed by them called the Grantha script. It was used for writing Sanskrit in the Tamil region. So that's the uniqueness of their script. Now, the devotional literature. A specific keyword called Tevaram should be used here because it's a very famous form of praise for Lord Shiva by the Nayanar saints. This is part of the Bhakti tradition. Nayanars were the Shiva Bhakts, and you have the Alvas who are the Vaishnavas. And Tevarams are the devotional hymns made by the Nayanar saints, and they were patronized by the Pallavas. Finally, the patronage for Tamil poets like Appar or Sambadar. The famous poet Dandin, who wrote Kavya Darshana, was a court poet in Narasimhavarman's regime as well. So by including all these specific keywords and examples and dissecting them under these various dimensions will give enough content for you a 10-marker question. So 5 points here, 6 points in the other part. That will make a well comprehensive answer. And now let's look how to conclude this. In the conclusion, you can talk about the legacy of them. The legacy is the Dravidian style temple architecture was later carried on by the Cholas of Tanjai. Tanjai is Tanjavur, and the Pandyas of Madurai. Cholas were also known for their bronze sculptures, which is also a continuation of this Dravidian tradition. And we can link it with a contemporary tradition as well. At present, it is a UNESCO World Heritage Site, the Pallava Mamallapuram Temple Complex. So you can link it with the current context as well. So the introduction, map, 2 parts, and this conclusion makes it a comprehensive answer for a 10-marker question like this. Thank you for listening.